and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video I wanted to film a video on the topic of what I can see. I get a lot of questions on my channel about my level of sight, my sight loss and how it affects me on a daily basis. And I also get people who come to my channel who are maybe new and have not watched any of my previous videos where I've discussed my sight loss and they're a bit confused. So I really wanted to make a video explaining my sight loss and what I can see, what I can't see and how my sight affects me, just so you guys get to know me a little bit better and so you can understand my level of sight for future videos and for future reference, and just to clear things up a little bit. I also wanted to add that I have written a blog post on this same topic over on my blog, which is fashioneyesta.com, and I basically wrote a blog on what I can see, and it was for the #HowISee campaign that was run last year for the RNIB, and it was a really great campaign talking about the different levels of sight that people can have and how sight loss is very varied and there are many grey areas of sight loss. It was a really great campaign and I got involved in it myself on my blog, so I'll link that blog post down below if you want to go and read that. So let me first of all talk briefly about my sight loss and my diagnosis, and I've spoken about it in other videos, but for those of you who don't know, I have a condition called Septo Optic Dysplasia and also optic nerve hypoplasia. Optic nerve hypoplasia is affected by my septo optic dysplasia, but you can have optic nerve hypoplasia on its own, which is the part of my condition that affects my eyesight. And I also have nystagmus. Septo optic dysplasia is a congenital condition and it affects my endocrine system and the pituitary gland, which is at the back of my brain, and it also affects my sight. So as a result of that, I'm blind in my right eye and have only central vision in my left eye. I haven't got very far depth of field vision and I can only see what's directly in front of me, and I haven't got any peripheral vision, so I can only see what's central to me. And I also have a condition called nystagmus, which is a condition which basically causes my eyes to involuntarily move of their own accord. So my eyes are constantly shaking and they can't focus on things properly, and that is also impacted on because of my septo optic dysplasia. So it's another part to my eye condition which was caused because of the damage to my optic nerves. That's my sight loss in a nutshell. I've had my sight loss since birth. I haven't lost my sight in later years. My sight loss hasn't regressed through time. It's pretty much stayed constant throughout my entire life. It's not going to get worse. It's not going to get any better. That is what it is. First of all, this eye here, my right eye, there's nothing going on in this eye. This eye is completely out of action. I'm fully blind in this eye. This eye, quite frankly, has left the building. Nothing happens in this eye. I don't even have a light perception in this eye. There's nothing in this eye. So this eye can be completely taken out of the equation. And then my left eye, I have some vision in, and it's quite useful depending on what time of day it is. Except I do go completely blind in the dark, all barring light perception. I can't see anything in the dark, so that's why I have my guide dog. I've only got central vision in my left eye, so I can only see what's directly in front of me. So I can't see anything that's below me, above me, or to either side of me. So the way I would describe that, it's pretty much like looking through a porthole of a ship. And another element to my sight loss is that I have very low acuity vision, so I can't see very long distances. So what you can see at 24 meters, I can only see at 6. So I can't see very far distances. So I can't see things like number plates on cars. I can't see far objects. I can't see facial expressions. So if I'm sitting in bed watching the TV at night and I'm a distance away from it, I can't see anything in terms of facial expressions or details on clothes. I can only see things like colour and vague objects. I can't see the text that you get on the platforms when they are announcing the trains at stations. So I have to use a monocular for that, which is why I have it. A monocular is basically a little small object which you can look through, and it's like a little mini telescope. It's pretty much like binoculars, but I only have one because this side doesn't work, and that's pretty useful on a daily basis, and that's what I use if I need to read things. And the other element of my sight loss, which is my nystagmus, is also very tricky because it does change depending on how I feel on a daily basis. My nystagmus is congenital nystagmus, and it's the kind where it's always constantly slightly moving. It's not pendulum nystagmus where it's always moving. It's very much a very slight wobble, so you have to be really looking at my eyes to notice it. My friends and family don't even notice it now because they know me so well, but people who meet me for the first time might notice it, but you have to be looking for it. It's not something you can see unless you're very up close to my eyes and you're looking for those very small involuntary movements. But sometimes it can move a little bit more rapidly and it almost feels like my eyes are fluttering under my eyelids. It's quite a weird feeling, but I'm so used to it now, it's quite funny when it occurs. Nystagmus is, for me, like looking through a camera that has quite bad autofocus, or the autofocus isn't on par. So I would be looking at something and it will take the lens of my eye a while to focus on the right thing, or the thing that I'm holding up for it to focus on. So I could be looking at my phone, for example, a text, and I could be looking at it for about 20 seconds and it will take me quite a while for my eyes to focus on the text in front of me. And that's what it's like with a camera as well. If you get a camera and the autofocus isn't on par and it's focusing on the wrong thing, that's what it's like. So if you want to see what it's like to have nystagmus through my eyes, get your camera, put it onto autofocus and tap the wrong object that you wanted it to focus on. So don't tap exactly what you wanted to focus on, tap on the wrong object, and that's pretty much what nystagmus is like. Now there is some things I do that I tend to find help with that. So some people might notice me tilting my head slightly when I'm looking at my phone, and I'll tilt it to the left and I'll kind of tilt it sideways. This is what is called the null point, and this is basically where you're trying to steady your eyes so that they can focus, and I do that a lot and that usually helps. But most of the time, if my nystagmus is affecting me that much, I'll just simply use voiceover, or I'll use speak selection, or I'll turn on the voiceover on my laptop so I don't have to rely on it. Otherwise, I'll just be sitting there for too long trying to read things. With regards to what I can see, there are quite a few things I can see. So I can read print, as I've mentioned, however it does have to be of a certain font size. So the font size that I'm comfortable reading is N24, which is quite a large font size. I tend to find that I'll just get my computer, I'll have work sent electronically to me and I'll just read it on that, or I'll just get my computer to read it back to me. So I use software like ClaraRead, for example, which reads documents back to me, because I can read, but I would be there for ages. If I had to read an entire book using my sight, I would be there for about a year, because I'll read one page and then it will cause my nystagmus to become worse and my eyes won't be able to focus, and I could be there for 10 stretch trying to read it because my eyes get too fatigued. Sometimes I'll look at a word and I'll think it's something else when in fact it's something completely different, and that's a result of my nystagmus. So I tend to find that I just use audiobooks if I want to read. I can read, and I do read. So for example, if I'm doing a speech, I do have an auto cue app which I use on my iPad, and I will enlarge it to a very high font size, and I'll use that, and I'll have it on a very slow speed so it doesn't go by too quickly so my eyes can focus. But I don't tend to rely on my sight to read very long pieces of text when I have to do uni work, because I'd be there for too long. But I can read print. I can read print, of small print, but I have to look at it for ages. So for example, look at one of these Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks. The print is really small, so sometimes I'm having to hold it up and get my eyes to focus for ages till I can read it, or I will take a picture of it on my iPhone, or use the magnifier app on my iPhone to see it, because otherwise I would be there for too long. So I can read print, but I tend not to rely on my eyes alone, if that makes sense. I have to use things to help me. Where I work at Lush, we have codes on things which are very small, and you have to type in the code on the till to get it to go through onto the system. So I tend to have a couple of magnifiers in my pocket that I bought from eBay, I think they were, and they're different strengths. So one of them's 2 times, one of them's 4 times, I think, and I have those in my apron pocket, so I could just whip out my little magnifying glass and read it, so I don't have to ask work colleagues to do it for me all the time. Things like that that I just use on an everyday basis just to make my life a little bit easier. I can also see colour, so any point any of you have asked questions about how I see colour when I'm describing a lipstick shade or I'm reviewing an eyeshadow palette, for example, I can see colour. There are colours, however, that are a little bit more difficult for me to distinguish. So for example, I can't tell certain shades of pink from red, which can be a bit difficult when I'm looking at lipsticks. So I'll be like, oh, this is a really nice berry tone red, and my mum will say, no, that's actually not berry tone, that's more pink. And sometimes that can be a bit difficult. So for things like that, I usually have to take someone with me, or I have to ask someone to clarify if this is the right colour. Sometimes colour is something that I distinguish differently, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it affects me that much. I just have to ask someone to clarify if the colour that I am beholding is the colour that I think it is in my brain. I can see shape as well, so I can see the shape of things. So I can see if something's a triangle, I can see if something's a rectangle shape. So for example, if I'm waiting for a bus and I see that there's a big red rectangular shape advancing towards me, you know, there have been some occasions where there's been a fire engine coming and I've been like, woo, bus, and they've just drove past me, and someone who's at the bus stop with me goes, love, that was a fire engine, did you know that? And I'd be like, oh, okay. There are good things about being visually impaired, you know, guys. You do have a lot of funny jokes to tell at parties. I can also see things like detail, so I can see things like patterns and certain prints and pictures, so I'm able to see if a pattern's a certain thing. So for example, I can see if my dress that I'm wearing is floral pattern. So I know that this is a red floral pattern. I think it's geraniums by the shape of it, but I could be wrong. So I can see that this is in colours of...
geraniums, it's chrysanthemums.
Oh well, okay, Mrs. Horticulturalist. But suffice it to say, I can see that I'm wearing a black floral print dress and the colours are in red and pink. So I do know that this is a floral print dress, although I don't know the technical name of the floral pattern because I'm not an expert in gardening like some people. But I can see pattern, I can see paisley prints, I can see all things like that. I can see pictures, I can see my pictures that I take on Instagram. But sometimes certain details are difficult to see, like the text of things or certain really fine details. I have to zoom in if I want to see it. But I can see to an extent what a pattern is if I'm up close to it, and if I get my magnifier out I can see it. There are more difficult things though that I don't tend to see straight away or that I can't see. For example, I can't see anything that's below me, above me or to the side of me, so I have no peripheral vision whatsoever. I can only see what's central to me. I could be in a supermarket and I'll be getting something and I'll think to myself, well, where's that got to? And if it's not directly in front of me, I can't see it. Or if my parents say to me, oh, can you get that out of the fridge? And I'll open the fridge and I can't see it. I'm like, it's not here, but it might be just to the side of me, but I can't necessarily see it because it's not in my direct line of vision. And it's also why I have my guide dog, because I can't see steps, I can't see overhanging branches, I can't see curbs, I can't see things that are to either side of me. I can't see if people are advancing towards me, if they're on either side of me. If someone has come up to my side and they haven't introduced themselves or they haven't said that they're there, they could stand there for ages and I won't see them. So sometimes when I've been at work at Lush, a customer will be standing next to me and they'll be gesturing for me to come over, but if they're not in my direct line of sight, I can't see them. So I'm always having to make an effort to turn around and make myself look available so they'll come to me and directly ask my help. But things like that I'm pretty much used to. You won't necessarily notice things like that unless you see me out and about. Right now, when I'm reading text off my iPhone or I'm looking straight into the camera, it's because it's in my direct line of sight. But if you saw me out and about, you would notice things like how I mobilise, because I would be with my guide dog and things would be a bit more difficult for me to see, so you would notice my sight loss. Just because I'm sitting here now looking directly into the line of the camera and I'm reading things off my phone doesn't mean to say that my level of vision is like that all the time and that I can see everything, because there are lots of things I can't see. Other things I can't see are really fine details, like things like facial expressions. If someone's far away from me, or my mum's gone a bit further away from me and she's a few metres ahead of me and we're in a shop and she's putting a face of revulsion at a clothing item or something, I can't see it unless I'm right close to her, or unless she makes an audible sound that she doesn't like, something like, ooh, it's horrible. She could be putting a face and I wouldn't realise it. Or I could be sitting in bed watching TV, and unless I'm really close to the TV, I won't see the really fine details like the facial expressions. I usually have to be really up close to it, or I'll have to watch things on my MacBook or my iPad so I can be right near to it. I was watching a Netflix series, the series of unfortunate events, and for the first 4 episodes when I was watching it in bed, and my TV was quite a way away from my bed, because it's about, I'd say, 4 meters away from my bed, something like that. I can only see the really immediate details, like what colour hair they have, if it's light or dark, what colour the car is, what certain things in the house look like. So if something's a certain colour, like if they're holding a red book, I could see that, but I can't see really small details like their facial expressions or what they're preparing and things like that. I have to be really up close to it if I wanted to see that, and that can be a bit annoying sometimes, because if I'm in the cinema and I'm quite a way back from something, or I'm in the theatre, I can't see what facial expressions they're putting, and I can't see really small details like that. Even with my monocular, I can't always see it. Sometimes that can be a bit frustrating because it's something in cinema and theatre that I'm missing out on. I can't see things like that, and I don't know what their emotion is or what their reaction to something is. So I usually have to ask someone if they're putting a certain face. I don't ask it all the time, but if it's a really important scene and I want to know, I'll have to ask someone. A funny example of that, actually, not to do with facial expressions actually though, was when I was seeing Warhols. And I always say to people when we go to theatre, if they pull a gun out, can you please tell me? Because if I just hear this loud ringing gunshot, I am going to freak out, because I'm not going to know if it's going to happen. I'm not going to physically and mentally psych myself up for it and prepare for this loud gunshot. But my aunt and mum forgot to tell me this in war halls, and the soldier gets the gun out and he's preparing to fire a bullet to get the horse used to the sounds of combat, and I didn't know this. And then all of a sudden I heard this really loud gunshot and I jumped out of my skin, but I was holding a drink, and I jumped so violently that I chucked the drink over my aunt and the person who was sitting next to her. So for that evening, they were both sitting there drenched in lemonade, and I was not a popular person in the theatre that night because everyone was laughing around my aisle. I thought it was really funny, and the actor who was on stage kept giving us really dirty looks because we were ruining in his really deep, profound monologue. Things like that can be a bit difficult, really small details, so something I always have to watch out for and that I have to remind people to tell me about if I'm not able to see it. I think it's great that there's so much of audio description available now. There's so many really great companies who do audio descriptions on things. Netflix are starting to bring it out. You've got Vocalize here in the UK, in London and all around the UK, that does audio described theatre visits and tours of things. So I think there are things that enable me to have a better experience when I'm going to see the visual arts now. I'm able to have a bit more of a full experience like anyone else with full sight. So I do compensate like that, and there are a lot of visual aids I use. I use my iPhone for so many things. There are so many apps that I use. I use scanning apps to scan documents in to enlarge them if I need to, like at work if we've got a training pack, I'll do that. I've got a magnifier, I've got a digital magnifier, I've got a monocular, like I said, I use a long cane, I have a guide dog, I have a scanner that I use to scan in my books at home. So there are lots of things that I can use to help me that mean that I am able to live a fulfilled life and that I don't let my sight loss affect me, because I've got things that will help me make the world around me accessible, and the things that I can't see I'm able to make it a little bit more easier for myself. I think technology for me has come on so much since when I was a child, because when I was a child there wasn't all these kind of things available. My life with sight loss was a lot more difficult to what it is now, because I think the first iPhone came out when I was about 11, so when I was a child I didn't have a tablet that I was able to read a book on. So for years I had to rely on large print books, and I couldn't read them for very long periods of time because my eyes were getting fatigued. So it would take me an age to read Harry Potter, and you can imagine how frustrating that was for me as a child, because my other friends were reading Harry Potter within about a day, and they'd come in like, oh yeah, this happened, and I wouldn't be able to read it because it would take me too long. But now as an adult that's different, and even though I might be sitting here and I'm looking into the camera and I read things on my phone and I swatch a colour and I say that's a lovely red colour or that's a really nice plummy colour, it's because I have enough vision to do that. But if you was to see me out on an everyday basis doing things with my guide dog, or trying to travel, or looking up train time, things like that, you would see me using visual aids. If I was to vlog a day in the life as someone with my sight loss, as a student or travelling, you would see that more. But because I don't do that a lot, and because I'm just sitting here doing these types of videos, you don't always see the breadth of my sight loss and how it affects me. I might not appear that I have a visual impairment, but that's because you're seeing one small portion of my life. There are other things that I do on an everyday basis that really show that I have a visual impairment and the way that I have to try and get around it. And with videos, I know what I'm going to talk about. I've already memorised what I want to say in my head. I already know what colours the things are going to be when I'm going to swatch them for hauls and things, or what clothes are, because I've been out with people to buy them and I've had them described to me. It's because I've prepared for it a lot, and I want to be able to do good content, and I want to be able to create good videos that are representative of me and the way I live my life. And I want to show people that being sight impaired doesn't affect your ability to do everyday things and to have a regular life. And I want to try and normalise disability through something as average as doing things like putting on makeup and wearing nice clothes and talking about the things that I enjoy talking about, and going to the theatre and doing all these things, and having a job in retail. I feel like I'm living a normal life, and I'm not going to let my sight loss stop me. So if there's a way around it, I'm going to find it and I'm going to do that. For example, to do my eyeliner, I have to do this really weird thing because I don't have any sight in my right eye. I have to get my camera on my phone and put it like this, so the camera's showing me what my eye looks like on this eye, so I can see it with this eye, so I can do my eyeliner. That's something I had to learn to do so I could do winged eyeliner, because I don't have enough peripheral vision to see it on this eye. Things like that have enabled me to problem solve and get through situations, because I want to do things and I want to get through life not feeling like I've let my disability hold me back in any way. So I will find a solution to the problem, because that's how I am, and that's how a lot of us with sight loss are and disabilities. We will find a solution to things because we have to, because we need to. We have to try and find a way to get around things. We're humans, we're problem solvers. We are born to make, we're born to create, we're born to imagine, and that's our purpose. We have made so many amazing things throughout the course of our history, and having a disability means that you're going to do that as well. You're going to try and make solutions to problems that you come across with a disability, and that's what I'm doing every day of my life. So that concludes my video today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it and you've got to know a little bit more about me and my sight loss, and it's cleared things up for you. Of course, feel free to ask me any questions down below. If you want to know anything else about my sight loss, do feel free. I will be doing some videos about the technology I use, because I've got a lot of requests for that, and I'll also be doing a video on my experiences with working at Lush with a disability, because a lot of you have requested that, so I will be doing that soon. So I know some of you might still ask for that in the comments, but it is coming, I promise. But if any of you would like me to do any particular vlogs or any particular videos talking about anything I've mentioned in this video, do let me know, because I do like hearing your feedback, and I want to make this channel a place that is about the things that I love, but also what you want to see as well. So do keep those comments coming in, because you guys have suggested some really great videos. I mean, this video itself was suggested by a viewer, so thank you to the viewer who suggested this, because I hope that it's helped a lot of you to understand me. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!